ironic that I'm standing here. You see, my mom always wanted me to be a priest. She didn't realize it needed a background check. Good morning. My name is Jim Wallach, and I am so proud to say that I am the son of Ann Wallach. On behalf of the entire Wallach family, I want to welcome you to a celebration of a life well lived. As I look around the church, I see all the people that my mom loved to be around. She would be the person who would most enjoy this day. It's a shame she just missed it by a couple of days. When I woke up this morning and saw it was cloudy and a bit windy, I immediately thought of my mother. You see, the Irish would describe today as a soft day. My mother loved her Irish heritage, and she would generally tell you about it within 5 minutes of meeting her. Anyone who's ever met my mom would know that she would tell you a lot in the first 5 minutes of the conversation. For instance, she would tell you that she's from Pittsburgh, she used to be a stewardess, she wore a dress to mass every Sunday, she makes the best spaghetti, she's never been sick a day in her life, she's 100% Irish. If you live in the greater Los Angeles area, you've probably heard of her kids. How great Jerry Rice is doing on Dancing with the Stars. The latest on the Sheriff's Department. And finally, as much as she loves Big Ben, she just thinks Terry Bradshaw's a little bit better. My mom used the shotgun approach when trying to win friends and influence others. I mentioned my mom was from Pittsburgh, and she came of age during the Great Depression and World War II. Like most people from that region of the country, she had iron and steel running through her veins. Let me be clear, in the 54 years I knew my mother, she never once said she was sick, and I never once saw her lay in bed. Before this week, the only time she went to the doctors was to pick up a baby. She wanted her kids to be tough too. For example, one day, all the kids were out the street mesmerized by a teenage neighbor who was throwing a small sledgehammer up in the air and watching it leave pockmarks as it landed on the asphalt. Remember, this was before video games. We had to entertain ourselves some way. Well, I guess my brother Johnny got too close to the action, and the sledgehammer landed right on his head. We ran to get my mom, and she slowly strolled out to the house to check on Johnny. She quickly examined him and sent him off to play. I was a little bit concerned at my mom's diagnosis, since there was thick blood coming out of the back of Johnny's scalp. We escorted Johnny back to my mom, and she conducted another cursory examination of his head and told him, "It's a long way from your heart, get out of here." And that was her final diagnosis. Johnny was never quite the same after that incident, but we had a lot of fun watching that hammer make holes in the street. My mom always had a way of minimizing pain with her sage advice. We would come to her with our problems, and she would quickly dismiss them. If you told her your fiance just ran off with another guy, and your dog just got run over, she'd listen, think about it for a moment, and say, "Don't worry about it, just go buy another dog." Which is pretty good advice. And boy, was my mom tough. She had 9 kids. The last 2 came out sideways, but she never complained. I mean, this woman did not use Novocaine at the dentist. Some of my fondest memories were the baseball games we played in the front yard. All the neighbor kids would come over, and we would play some very intense games at the friendly confines of Wallach Stadium. I recall one hot afternoon when we were cursed with an odd amount of players. We were forced to drag my mom's tired old bones out to the field to even the teams. She was mostly a singles hitter. Well, it happened that my mom was pitching, and baby Jerry walked up to the plate. Unwittingly, my mom left the mound and approached the plate to pitch underhand to the small lad. Well, baby Jerry had about the same swing when he was 4 as he did when he started for the Chicago White Sox. So as my mom drew closer to the plate, Jerry held the bat still, patiently waiting for that hard, plastic wiffle ball to arrive. I was sitting out there at shortstop and I'm thinking to myself, this is not good. My mom gently tossed the ball across the plate as Jerry unleashed a vicious swing. There were only two sounds that reverberated across the neighborhood that day. The crack of the bat as Jerry connected solidly with the ball, and a loud thump as the ball exploded in my mother's face. We stood in silence as my mom picked up the ball and threw Jerry out at first. Then she calmly walked out the field, covering her swollen face with both hands. We all met my mom in the bathroom as she splashed cold water on her now bruised cheek. I'll never forget Jerry pulling on her leg and asking, "You're not going to quit, are you?" No, she didn't quit. As I recall, she came back and pitched 3 shutout innings, and we won that game 7-6. Great victory. I would be remiss if I didn't convey to you that my mom demonstrated compassion for us at times. I've told this story on several occasions, but it bears repeating. I remember when we moved out here from Pittsburgh, my father never thought it got cold enough to run the heater. But as many of you know, it can get pretty cold here in Southern California during the winter months. I remember lying in bed with my brothers, nuts to butts, just trying to get some warmth on each other. On more than one occasion, I recall waking up in the middle of the night to see my sweet mother sneak into our room, tiptoe up to our bed, and drop another brother on top of us. My mother was my first and best teacher. She never stopped teaching me throughout my life. Up until the very end, she taught me about sacrifice and courage, and most of all, to make God the center of your life. For the past 50 years, my mom sat right there in that fourth pew for the 6:30 Mass, now 6:15 Mass. It was there when she prayed for her children and gave thanks to God. On the occasions when I would get up early enough to attend Mass with her, I would marvel at a singular event that would occur during every communion. As a dozen or so parishioners would pass my mom's pew, they would stop and pay respect by reaching over and giving my mom a big hug. It would completely interrupt the whole ceremony, and I'm sure it did make the priest happy. But it is a memory that will be ingrained in my heart forever. That's the kind of effect my mother had on me. You know, my mother never drove a new car. She never had fancy clothes. She never hit a home run or scored a touchdown. Never earned a postgraduate degree. Never played professional baseball or Division I football. She didn't graduate from West Point or the Air Force Academy. She was never promoted, didn't become a doctor or a lawyer. She was never in the United States Marine. But because she lived for her children and grandchildren, they were able to achieve all those things. The night before my mom died, I went to the hospital to visit her after midnight. As I walked through the intensive care unit, it was dark, and the only sound came from the noise of the machines that track the patient's vital signs. As I approached my mother's room, I stopped short of the glass partition and peeked inside. There was a little Filipino nurse sitting on Mom's bed, holding her hand and stroking her hair. The nurse probably was an angel in disguise. She was talking to my mom about heaven. I heard my mom tell her, "I'm ready to go." And then, of course, she began bragging about her grandchildren. That nurse didn't know my mom. In fact, she had just met her, but she loved her just the same. Just like so many others have loved her, their names I will never know. They gave me 10 minutes this morning to describe a woman that you would need a lifetime to appreciate. Let me tell you this. My mother never grew old, and now she never will. In recent years, she would text her kids whenever she would leave the house, so we wouldn't worry about her. The text would be as simple as, "Gone to the store. I love you, Mom." She didn't want us to think we were without her love for even a few minutes. We won't be receiving those texts anymore, but she made sure we will always receive her love. Thank you very much, and God bless.